that you've been chosen at the end of it.
Hey, Rachel. I'm doing fine. You? Came what? Oh, well, good. I hope we get some answers.
Been trying in some areas for sure.
Yeah, I'm gonna sit down here. I'm being safe here. Well, so I'm gonna do all my stuff from right here. I've got it set up. I'm gonna do all my stuff from right here. And that way I won't have to.
Ordinary.
This version, I do see it. I think it has to be.
Yeah.
Oh, you gonna do it?
And then I'll-
Okay.
My God, are you gonna move this past the last? I don't know. I doubt it. I got a feeling that. Promise to walk. Yeah.
Mayor, how are you?
Good to see you, buddy. We're looking at all this.
I was hoping he'd be able to join us today, but I don't know if he, I know he's extremely busy.
Oh, yeah. Dark green.
Okay. Yep, I'll give you a call back.
I think so. I don't see. See the governor just yet, but let's just trudge forward, and then when he signs in, I will let you know, okay?
All right, I'm going to go ahead and call the regular meeting of the Pennyrile Area Development District for January 10th, 2022 to order. And want to thank you all for joining us, both those that are here in the boardroom and here with us virtually. At this time, I'm going to ask Mr. David Williams if he would lead us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll follow that with our invocation by Judge Hollis Alexander. So if everyone would could, please stand and join. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now with me, pray. Heavenly Father, we bow before you today, Lord, just give us things today, give us things for the opportunity to gather here and pray, Lord. That's been this Pennyrile region, Lord. We ask that you be with this meeting and each and every person in it, that you did place and what's best for the whole district. Father, not for any selfish reason. Just ask you to be with this country, heal this land, Lord, like we know you can. Put your healing hand upon it. Great position that you can deal with this land. All the pandemic, all the disaster that's dealing with, Lord, we want to keep all those in our thoughts and prayers, those that have lost those. Ask all these things in your name, Lord. We ask you to give us where we faith. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, gentlemen.
Mr. Chairman, the governor is.
Okay, I've been told the governor is now with us via Zoom. So we're going to postpone proceeding with our regular meeting. And Jason, you want to introduce? Okay, at this time, it's my pleasure to welcome our governor of this great Commonwealth, Governor Andy Beshear. And Governor Beshear, if you would, please go ahead and take over.
Sure. Thank you all for having me today, and good afternoon. Also, thank you for your leadership. In the middle of December, we got hit by the worst tornado event in our history. It killed 77 of our fellow Kentuckians, including a child just 6 days old. It wiped out all or parts of a number of towns that we love and care about, from Mayfield to Dawson Springs, where my dad is from, to Bremen, and so many other communities hit very hard. We continue both the cleanup and the rebuilding efforts, which this state and my office and me personally are going to be there with you every step of the way to rebuild every building and to rebuild every life. We are, thank goodness, through the early stages where we were looking for people and providing at that time congregate shelter and just getting through the first set of days. But now the extensive work of rebuilding, of housing our people during the rebuilding, of ensuring that we keep the jobs that were in the region and grow them is in front of us. We received a historic 100% coverage from FEMA, originally for the first 30 days of the disaster. And while we asked for an extension and we didn't receive it, we did get flexibility to use the 30 days in the best way that we can at the most expensive period, anytime in the first 120 days of the cleanup. Now, there are two separate categories, A and B, and we're going to get to choose for each, which is going to allow us on the search and rescue side and a lot of the expenses that were there to use that at the best 30 days. And then B is the debris removal. And we're going to have to calculate, coming together as counties and areas, what the very best part of the very best way to do that is. The state, working with especially the county judges and mayors most impacted, are focused on a number of things right now that they could tell you too. Number one is housing. FEMA's process is really long in moving people from a hotel or a state park into either a mobile home or what we would call a travel trailer. So the state, in learning from Louisiana and others and in working with the county judges, is going to go ahead and make the first set of purchases of those so that we can speed up that timeline. Now, a lot of FEMA processes aren't made for an entire town being leveled. And they're made for blocks, but still having housing available close to work or in your community, and that is just not the case here. So we're being real thoughtful, especially with families with kids, about where to locate them and provide them the very best of services. I asked the General Assembly before they came in to do a couple of things. First, in the very first week, to pass a Western Kentucky tornado relief bill. And I asked that include $150 million for a large group of pieces, meaning us speeding up and it being reimbursed, temporary housing, being able to build out the infrastructure necessary to have the pads and the utility hookups for these travel trailers for our families. I asked them to include that money to cover all, because I want to cover all of the county and other shares, and the flexibility to address the issues on the ground as we see them right now. Money for the school systems to provide wraparound services, and an expansion of some of the authority on what we could do economic development wise in the counties. I will say that originally we had very good discussions, and then we didn't hear from a day, and the bill that's been introduced doesn't quite go that far, and we need your help making changes. As opposed to the $150 million that would be readily available for those pieces, it's limited to 45, 30 for the school system. It's needed, and that's good. And then 15 just for the travel trailers. The challenge with that is we're going to have county share here soon that's going to have to be paid, because it's probably on the debris removal, not the first 30 days that we want to use. I think we need to make sure that we've got that in, so we're not looking at multiple counties facing bankruptcy. The other piece is they didn't put in any additional money for us to be able to build out the infrastructure for the travel trailers themselves. And kind of the last piece is what they've said is you got to come back to us, and we got to go through the full legislative process each time to authorize payments. Now, those of you working with FEMA know a FEMA interpretation can change 2, 3, 4 times sometimes in a day or a week. So we could use your help in getting your leaders on the ground the type of flexibility they need. And for each of you, I think I've worked with most of you in the midst of this. My only commitment here is to rebuild, to do whatever it takes. There is zero politics in my approach towards this, and it's the way we've got to do it. I am fully committed as governor to bringing every resource to bear, and even if it passes in its current way, I will figure out a way to help the cities and the counties, because you shouldn't have to carry the financial burden of an absolutely devastating storm that took people that we loved and care about. I'm in this for the long haul, no matter how difficult that it is, and together we will find a way. I think that way ought to be a little easier than it is right now, but it doesn't matter, right? We will push through any barrier to be there every single moment of every single day to get our communities rebuilt. I'll continue to push on the federal government. I wish we'd gotten a full extension, but we're going to go back and we're going to ask for a larger share for them to cover so that there is less of an impact. But I will say we're sitting on the best budget in my lifetime for the state right now. So we can and we should be able to cover these regional costs. It is not your fault that you were hit by the worst tornado imaginable. I mean, what I think will be an F5 staying on the ground 200 miles. I mean, it's absolutely devastating. And my commitment is you shouldn't be financially devastated while we rebuild from that natural disaster. I'm happy to take any questions. I think that is where we are right now, but I hope that there is much more that we will be able to do. And I'm in constant communication, whether it's Judge Perry, Judge Whitfield, Mayor Onan, and others. I just want to make sure that we can solve every challenge that comes up. One more piece that was in the 150 that we do need to get in some type of way is our farmers. They were hit hard, but one of the main things is straight line fencing. It is not covered under FEMA. It is not covered under insurance. There are certain loans that you can get from U.S. Ag, but it takes 100% collateral, which is ridiculous. And so one thing we ask for is the flexibility for the state to do low interest loans to our farmers to be able to make that happen. That solves that collateral issue. It makes it available and affordable for the farmers. And our hope was that we'd be moving a little faster. But again, I think we all want to do the right thing. I just think that sometimes we get caught up in control or who's in control or trying to micromanage something from somewhere other than your communities. So again, we're there with you no matter how hard it is, but could certainly use your help to get the flexibility that your localities deserve and need.
Thank you, Governor Bashir. And on behalf of all our board members, both elected officials and citizen members, we certainly thank you and appreciate everything you've done. Appreciate your comments regarding the lack of politics involved, because as you said and confirmed, this is definitely not a political matter. It's a human rights and human preservation effort, and we appreciate everything you've done. I think there are a few questions to be asked. I know Judge Whitfield maybe has been in contact with some of your staff, but I'm going to let him go ahead and ask his question.
Hey, Governor, can you hear?
I can hear you, Jack.
First, thank you for all the help that you've given, specifically to me, that our dealings, and it's been a wonderful relationship over this last month. I hate that we had to do it this way, but we can work on that later. But initially, you requested 150 million, and the legislature is looking like 45 split between schools and then direct assistance for the trailers and things. Out of that original 150, was it going to be split up similarly between schools and then other assistance? And do you have that breakdown?
Yep. So when I say the legislature did 45 is what's immediately available. I think they say they're appropriating a different amount. For me, if we can't use it when we need to use it, it's not real until it's real. Now, I asked for 150 million for direct aid to the community, and obviously with the requirement that we get reimbursed for every piece we can, but sometimes it's not worth it. Sometimes going through the FEMA reimbursement slows us down so much that the harm to our families exceeds the financial advantage to getting reimbursement. So 150 million was just in direct aid. And then there was an extra $50 million for school systems. And that was $8 million for physical plant. I think we had one school system that was damaged, and the rest for wraparound services. And of that, the $8 million was already budgeted in the last budget. We had it. And then the last piece that I asked for was the flexibility to be able to do different things with our tax incentives to keep and or bring new jobs to the region, because Jack, you and I had talked, that's going to be so important to making sure that people don't leave these towns. We've got one real possibility in Dawson Springs that I think would have worked, but I think we got another way to do it. And so I'll make the commitment again. I said it to you on the phone. Even if there are challenges up in Frankfort, they won't keep me from doing everything I can to helping you in Western Kentucky.
Okay, next, and we know we lost that the 100% or are going to. Is that going to go straight to the 75-25, or will we go to negotiate a 90-10 or?
So it goes to 75-25, though I'm going to ask for 90-10. That's my next ask, and we're working on it right now. What we've all got to work on is when we take the 30. So of our first 120 days, we have two categories that will get 100% expenditure, 100% federal support, and we can choose different 30 days between each of the categories. One is a lot of the rescue. And I think that for us, and we'll have a chance to talk about this, it starts either the day after or 1 week after. We're trying to determine which one has the largest expenses. If we started it 1 week after, then we pay 25% of the expenses from the first week, but then week 2 through 5, we'd have 100% coverage. Debris removal, we can choose differently and should choose differently. Now, Jack, the challenge is we can only make one choice, and that applies to both Hopkins and Graves and every other county, right? And so Muhlenberg was probably the fastest in where it's going. You all are doing a great job getting stuff out. Graves is going to take a long time. So we're all going to have to sit down together and find what's optimal there. Now, if we can do what I'm proposing and the state covers, right, the county share, then we can all reach agreement really fast, right? Because it's not hitting your finances, which you need for so many things, any differently. And we have more than enough money in the current budget to cover it.
Okay. And last week we had an email, I think all the judges did at least,
Right.
requesting that we sign to extend the state of emergency. Is that something that you still need us to do?
I think we should to be careful. So when in the and I won't comment on the back and forth, but during the COVID disagreements, the House and Senate passed a bill saying that all states of emergency would end 30 days after they're started, unless what they argued at that point, the legislature re-upped them, or county judge executives requested an extension. So with our argument at the time was every natural disaster for purposes of reimbursement is going to last more than 30 days. Do you really mean that you have to re-up all of them, or can? And they said yes. And I took it to court and I lost. So that statute is binding, but now at least one branch, I think it's the Senate, does not believe that they have a role in extending non-COVID related emergencies. And that's all done by county judges. Now that wasn't what was argued in the litigation. And so we're trying to do both. We have pushed them and said, go ahead and do the extension. It can't hurt if you don't believe that it applies, but it would be wise to go ahead and get those letters requesting the extension, not just from the impacted counties, but for every county that may be providing services or help for purpose of reimbursement. And so that we can ensure the price gouging statute, for instance, that can only be active in a state of emergency. And so if you were an adjoining county and you didn't have the extension, or somebody argued you didn't have the extension, then they could raise the price of everything that the county next door needs. So I didn't expect that we'd be kind of going through this rigmarole, but to do it for us to ensure that I have the ability to provide extra funding even outside of what the House and the Senate are looking at, and that we can ensure that you are eligible if you qualify for reimbursement. We need everybody to send those letters in.
Well, like I mentioned to you before, our legislators don't always listen to us either. So but I would ask that the other judges that are here to look at that and seriously consider signing that letter. Even if you're not affected, you know, we tend to work together as a group, and it could have a huge effect on the counties that were so badly damaged. So thank you, Governor. I don't know if anybody else got a question.
Thank you. And my concern would be adjoining county doing the right thing, provides you help, and would want to seek reimbursement for it. And that would be at least much more challenging to find that 75% if they weren't covered under the state of emergency. This says, do we understand correctly the state is going to pick up the county's portion? That's what I've proposed. That's what I asked for in a bill, and we went over its language. That is not what is in the current legislation moving through the legislature. We can, we should, we have the money to do it. So please contact your state representatives and let them know how debilitating this would be. I don't know if Judge Perry is there, but Graves County debris alone is going to be about $120 million. Right? So let's even say we can get $60 million out of that in the best 30 days. We still have $60 million. 25% of that state and county, half of that is county. I mean, there's no way. And so this is a time when the state is flush that we ought to be there for you.
Any other questions for Governor Beshear? Governor, I don't have the luxury of seeing the chat box, so if you see something pop up, please let me know.
The only one.
Okay.
All right.
The only one? Okay. Apparently there are no further questions. Again, Governor, we certainly appreciate you taking time to be with us today and appreciate everything you've been doing. And as Jack mentioned, we'll get these letters signed, I'm sure, and get those back to you. I don't know that it'll be by noon today, since most of us.
That's okay.
But we'll get them to you before the end of the day.
Yeah, it would be important before tomorrow. Thank you all. We care about you. I care about you. We're not going anywhere.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, I get back, I'll forward it to you, Todd, unless somebody else wants to take that on, but I can certainly forward
And I
that
think,
to
did you
you.
send it out to everybody in the?
The letter, I had all of the executive
Oh,
orders,
okay.
but if you can send me the letter, I will send it out to everybody.
Yeah.
Yep. I knew there might be some questions on the length. Do you want it? Okay. Okay. Send this out.
All right. Okay, and then the other thing, I think there was question about, Jack, the fact they had requested a 365-day extension. And as I got to thinking about that after you and I talked, Sunday, I think it was, or Saturday, my days run together. But I'm sure the reasoning for that is, as you just said, the legislation stipulates a 30-day time period. Well, if we did it for 30 days, he's going to have to call a special session every 30 days to get legislation to come in and approve an extension, whereby renewing it 365 days, that at least puts them back in session. So if it does need to be extended again, it's during session and not a special session.
Yeah, and that was my original question, was why so long, going out a year? But that's exactly it, is to avoid having to do a special session just to extend that state of emergency. And I can tell you, in Hopkins County and Graves County, we're not going to be back in a year.
No. Yeah, it'll definitely be extended again, I'm sure. Okay. Moving on then, with our regular agenda. And again, appreciate Governor Beshear making time to be with us. But we'll move ahead with the next item of business on our agenda, and that's approval of our meeting minutes. And if you've had a chance to look through those minutes from our prior meeting of November, actually, since we postponed our December meeting. Is that right, Jason?
Yes.
I would entertain a motion, the November minutes be approved as presented. Mr. Scott Marshall, do I have a second?
Mayor Cotton, I'll second it.
Mayor Yance?
Yep.
Are there any questions, corrections, or amendments to the minutes as presented? Hearing none. And since we have so many joining us virtually, I would ask if anyone is opposed to the approval of these minutes to let it be known. Hearing no opposition, the minutes will be approved as presented. At this time, I would like to ask our treasurer, Ms. Chrissy Carter, to come forward and present our financial report.
Good afternoon. We should be at 50% to be in line with our budget. We are currently at 40%, and all of our line items are within budget at this time.
All right, everyone's had a copy, I think, in your packets of the budget as well. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the financial report as presented.
Steve Tribble moves for approval.
All right, I got a motion by Judge Tribble, a second by Mayor Arthur Green. If that's okay, Mayor. Any questions or comments? Hearing none. Anyone opposed to the approval of the financial report as presented, please let it be known now. Hearing no opposition, the financial report is approved as presented. Meeting schedule. I think everyone has received a copy of the listed meetings for the month of January. And if you've got any questions on that, just try to get with some of the staff or Jason or someone, and I'm sure they'll get that answered for you. We'll move on then to our federal and state reports, and first ask if Robin Taylor, I believe she's with us by Zoom with Senator McConnell's office, would like to provide an update. You there, Robin?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Oh, great. Well, good afternoon, everybody. Just appreciate the opportunity to jump on here today with you. I'm sitting in for Morgan Alvey, who is out for just a bit longer. She'll be back in town on Wednesday. I know she's been keeping up with many of you while she has been away. And certainly we've been trying to follow your progress and work with you on your needs and questions throughout this process of storm cleanup and in the aftermath of the tornadoes. We do hope to have Senator McConnell back out in the state next week. And I'll be in touch with some of you this afternoon about scheduling some time when we can come back and visit with you, do some follow-up. We'll bring a staffer from DC along with us to talk with you about some needs and make sure that we are fully following everything that you need from us. Also just want to make sure that everybody is aware, and I'm happy to send this out to you all, to Cheri if she wants to give this out to the entire group, but on our website, mcconnell.senate.gov, we have compiled a complete list of resources, of federal level resources for storm needs. So that hopefully would be helpful to everybody, FEMA, SBA, and pretty much everything else that that is available that you should need. So with that, I will stop. But again, thank you. I know it's been just a very challenging, harrowing several weeks for all of you, and then to get hit again with a second set of storms around New Year's. I see Judge Tribble there, just a lot to deal with in my hometown there, Judge. Really appreciate everything you all are doing and the level of communication that you all have had with our office. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. Appreciate that report. Also, moving on then with Senator Rand Paul's office. Jason's online, but Rachel's in person. So I think Rachel's going to give an update from Senator Paul. Is that correct? Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Robin, for your comments. It is important for everybody to know that all of the congressional delegation and the staff members associated with those members are working together too. And we appreciate the work of our other colleagues in this terrible disaster. Our office is busy holding mobile office hours in the different counties that were impacted by the tornado. And I would like for all of you to be aware of it, even if you're not in an impacted county, because we all know people who live in those areas, and you can help us to refer constituents to our office. I have traveled to almost all of the most devastated areas, and it is very sobering, and we've lost a lot of lives and lost a lot of homes. And we also have landscapes that have just been changed forever. And that's, so much about who we think of ourselves as our communities. And so it's just a difficult thing for all of us to work through. But in the next 2 days, January the 11th in Lyon County from 10 to 1 p.m. at the courthouse, Jason Hassert will be holding mobile office hours. I will be in Pembroke from 10:30 to 2 o'clock tomorrow. And then on Wednesday, Jason will be at Princeton City Hall from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. And I will be in Ohio County at their county office building from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. In Hartford. Let me tell you what those mobile office hours would look like if there is a person who has been impacted by the tornado and they have a problem with a federal agency outside of FEMA, for example, the IRS, maybe they've lost their veteran records and they need that in order to access their healthcare system, things like that. We can help walk them through that process to get Social Security cards recovered, passports, even veterans who've lost their medals from service. We can help replace those. And that may seem like a small thing now, but it will be meaningful to a family if we can assist them in doing that. They can also call our office in Bowling Green, and that number is 270-782-8303 to get started on that process. In closing, I want to say that we are working closely with Kentucky Emergency Management, with our FEMA contacts on the ground, and it seems very impressive to me to see how active they are in the various communities. But it is also surprising to me when I am physically in these communities and meeting with constituents to find out how many people have not filed a FEMA application. So you can help us in that respect by encouraging people that if they have had losses in this disaster, to go ahead and open a FEMA application. That doesn't mean they have to even ever accept any support from FEMA, but there's other services that they cannot access if they don't get into that system, and they must file that by the 11th of February. And so that is a huge service that you can do if you'll go ahead and let people, encourage them to do that. As an example, the Small Business Administration has some very low interest rate loans up to $200,000 for rebuilding your home, for example. And you could still be turned down from FEMA support, but qualify for an SBA loan. And it's kind of misleading because the term Small Business Administration loan makes it sound like you're a business, but these are loans for homeowners. So if you haven't filed your FEMA application, it seems so complicated, by February 11th, you can't get to the SBA loan side. So just think of that FEMA application as the gateway into which you could access some of these valuable federal programs. It is also not uncommon to be denied on the first try with FEMA in our office through these mobile office hours, or through calling that number that I gave you, can help a constituent navigate that denial and reapplication process or appeals process, et cetera. So please use us liberally in that process. That number again is 270-782-8303. And I will be here for the remainder of the meeting if anyone has any questions afterward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rachel. We appreciate everything you and all Senator Paul's staff has been doing to assist, as well as Senator McConnell's. I didn't mention that with Robin.
Yeah, also add that Senator Paul traveling in the area Tuesday and Wednesday next week.
Okay. For those of you who might not have heard, Senator Paul will be in the area next week, Tuesday and Wednesday, surveying the area and talking with folks about needs. Okay. Next, we have Mr. Corey Elder representing Congressman Comer's office, and Corey is with us by way of Zoom. Corey.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me here today. Every city and county here has been impacted by severe weather over the past month, and some that were less impacted sent their emergency personnel and resources to those who were needed. It just shows how our community comes together and how that makes you so much stronger. Starting with my hometown of Mayfield, the morning after the tornado, Congressman Comer has been to nearly every impacted area. Most recently, we listened to some Dawson Spring residents with Jill Collins and Jason. The governor mentioned this historic 100% reimbursement rate. And as Congressman Comer went from Mayfield to Princeton to Dawson to Bremen, and he talked with Judge Whitfield, Mayor Young, and others about the needs, he took this request to the president on Air Force One. This, along with the advocacy of Leader McConnell and Senator Paul, shows our commitment to the recovery, as Rachel mentioned, all of us coming together. I also will be hosting mobile office hours in every county over the next several weeks to help folks in person, as Rachel was saying. I will be in Pembroke at the City Hall on Thursday from 2 to 3:30 to help, similar to what Rachel said, with people that prefer in-person help with getting government documents replaced and, help with FEMA. And, as she said, a lot of people don't know all that the SBA can do. And we'll be there in person to help explain the process and help people in person. And if you all know of anyone that could use some in-person help, feel free to send them. The information will be on our Facebook, as well as I'll be more than happy to go and meet with people in person. You can just connect us, give them my email, or I can give them a call, and I'd be more than happy to meet up with them at a time that fits their schedule. But anyhow, thank you all very much.
All right. Thank you, Corey. And just real quick, Ms. Taylor and Ms. McCubbin and Corey, yourself, all of you have mentioned something, I think, about mobile office hours and about our various federal legislative team being in the area. If you all could possibly get that schedule maybe to Jason or some of his staff so that they can disseminate that to all our counties, that might be helpful for us to get that information out to our public as well. I'd appreciate that. Okay, moving on. I think I saw where Representative Prunty was with us via Zoom. And Representative Prunty, would you like to provide an update, please? Still here?
She's still here. Maybe on a call or something.
Okay, yeah. Obviously, they're in session, so she may have had someone walk in, so we'll move along. I notice Mr. Alex Caudell here with the governor's office. Alex, would you like to provide an update, please? Okay.
Thank you, Judge. I'll be brief. The governor hit on most of the points that we've been working on. But a quick reminder, they have extended the disaster unemployment deadline to January 28th. So if you have any folks who were needing unemployment assistance who were affected by the disasters, then have them apply by January 28th. The governor was in Hopkinsville last week, surveying tornado damage, and back in Mayfield and Graves County again as well. And I'll also remind you that this Thursday night at 6 p.m., the governor will be delivering his State of the Budget address. You can watch that on KET. And that's this Thursday, the 13th at 6 p.m. So I hope you'll tune in for that. And DLG has finally decided that 42 counties is too many for me, Jason. So we're getting some help, thankfully. Someone that you all probably know, former State Representative Martha Jane King, will be coming on board with us later this month as a field rep, and she'll be picking up a couple of the Pennyrile area counties. So look forward to working with Martha Jane and having her back in the fold. And if you all ever need any assistance, feel free to reach out to me anytime. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Alex, and congratulations on getting some help. Of course, you know what they say, when you've got a good horse, you just always ride it as far as you can. So I appreciate everything you've been able to do on behalf of the governor for us. Also with us here today is Ms. Denitra Henderson, our Chief District Engineer for District 2 of the Transportation Cabinet. Denitra, you want to give an update?
So Doug and I were elbowing back and forth. Are you going to give the update or am I? So, but I'll give a quick road update, and we're working closely with our judges that are impacted by the storms to make sure that we remove the debris from state roadways, or at least coordinate with them and piggyback off their contracts to make sure those are getting removed. Again, with FEMA, it's always a lot of confusion on how do we make that happen. So while the governor was speaking, Judge, I got notice that the letter we provided will not work. And so we're working on a new letter, but we're just minute by minute updates trying to support our counties. And then also get the debris removed from the state roads so that we can try to get our communities as close to normal as possible. One challenge from a state road perspective is just like the Transportation Cabinet could not put out a contract to hire, for example, social workers, we also cannot put out contracts for household debris removal. And that's been quite the challenge, because on the other hand, our county judges don't want to foot the bill for household debris removal on state roads, especially not if there's no guarantee they'll get reimbursed. So we're working closely with our judges to make sure we get the paperwork in place so that our judges, if they're kind enough to help us with that debris removal, household debris removal. And again, we're trying to trade off if we need it and do vegetation debris removal in our cities if we need to with our state force labor and trucks. So again, it's just day by day changes and trying to get that done. But as far as road projects go, we're excited to see any type of draft budget in our upcoming road projects that may be coming. I have not seen a draft of anything just yet, so I'll be watching the website and have news to share when y'all do. Thank you.
Thank you, Denitra. And you mentioned Doug Taylor with Rural and Secondary Roads is here with us. Doug, do you have anything at all to add to that or to say, or yeah, come on up.
I knew you'd have something to say. Actually, you're fortunate Denitra drew that straw. I will add on this. In the ice storm of several years ago, many of you were active at that time. And what we experienced is the debris removal process on county roads that really aren't established for the heavy traffic that they received, and especially in conditions like we've just experienced this weekend, freeze, thaw, snow, rain, tend to deteriorate. Those won't show up until spring or summer. more than likely. I will tell you that during the ice storm, the majority of those repairs were made with discretionary money or FD 39 money. The amount of money that's available through that program is set by the legislature, and it is going on in this budget session right now. If you have any influence or would like to reach out to your state legislature, you might remind them that that is a line item in the transportation budget, that they set that amount and that we could anticipate much more need than we've had in the past. And also that the past 2 years have been underfunded. So I would encourage you to do that and also be kind of speculating and keep that in mind as you see your county roads deteriorate this spring.
Mr. Chairman, I may also add, Representative Prunty did make a comment here saying that she appreciates all the federal delegation to assist her constituents in both counties in her district and all the transportation workers helping the debris removal. She said she did hear the governor's comments and has already reached out to A&R Chair Petrie for his comments. So.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And thank you, Doug, for your update as well. Have I missed anyone at all? I think I've got everyone that's here in the boardroom with us, but online, did we cover everybody? Okay. We'll move on then to our area of reports. And the first report will be given by Ms. Jill Collins on the area agency for aging and independent living. I don't know if I'll ever say that right.
It's a mouthful.
Good afternoon. I do have just some quick updates for you. The first one is regarding our senior centers. Our senior centers are open as of back in July. Currently, all 9 of our senior centers are open and operational. We do have one mill site satellite center, which was located in Dawson Springs in the apartment complex that was destroyed during the tornado. And so those participants have, for the most part, moved in with family or have been relocated, and we are working with them to make sure that they have what they need. But you can see the average daily attendance listed here. We've gotten it broken down October, November, and December. You can kind of see our attendance still is not back up to what it was pre-pandemic, but every month we do see that more and more participants are beginning to come back to the senior centers. See, you can change that, Tim. We also have an update on our temporary COVID home delivered meals. I don't think we've met since that last date of delivery took place, which was on December the 10th. The funding for those temporary COVID home delivered meals is gone. However, those meals were transitioned after December the 10th to curbside or congregate meals. Those individuals are on the waiting list for our home care and Title III meals, but during that time, they can access a curbside meal from their local senior center or a congregate meal if they choose to participate. During the time we were providing our COVID home delivered meals, we were averaging about 915 home delivered meals per day. Now that the funding for the temporary COVID meals has gone, our average daily delivery is about 252, and that is basically our regular home care and Title III meals that we have our regular allocations for. So you can see from March the 16th through December 10th of 2021, we served about 1,700, almost 1,800 additional individuals with COVID meals for a total of 248,950 meals. The grand total for all meals during that time frame was 494,000 meals, and that included all of our congregate, curbside, shelf-stable COVID meals and our regular home delivered meals. So that was a lot of meals during that time frame. If you have questions about the wait list for your area, that is in your packet as well. It's broken down by county. As a result of the pandemic, we did see a large increase in our wait list for home delivered meals in all of our counties. And so if you have questions about your particular county, you can see me after the meeting and I'll be happy to talk to you about that. And just to shift gears just a little bit, Corey Elder mentioned last week that he and Congressman Comer were in our area on Tuesday, I believe, last week. And Jason and I were able to meet with the congressman as well as Charlotte Whitaker, who is the state president for AARP Kentucky. They came down and met with us in Dawson Springs and were able to meet with several individuals, particularly older adults who were impacted by the tornado. And every visit we made, that older adult had either lost their home or had been displaced because of the major damage they had received to their home. We spent a lot of time at Pennyrile Forest State Park meeting with older adult who was living in a cabin. That's where she's staying during the time while things are being worked out for her housing. We also met with another older adult in Dawson Springs who's, this was what was left of her home. And so we were able to meet with her and her daughter. This particular individual was 87 years old. She survived the storm. I asked her if she was home during the time the tornado hit, and she said she was. She was sitting in her recliner in her mobile home and survived that storm. So we were very appreciative that Congressman Comer came on site to talk with our older adults. These particular individuals we met with that day are clients of the Area Development District. So if they're clients of ours, we already know that they have needs, whether it be in-home needs, community-based needs, but they already have needs that we're helping to meet. And so as a result of the tornado, those needs have just been multiplied, just basic needs now that we're working to meet in addition to those service needs that they had. And so what we found in speaking with those older adults that day, the primary need that was discussed was housing. They're all displaced either in a hotel with a family member or at the state park. So housing was the number one need for those older adults. AARP was with us that day as well to talk about the needs and what individuals, just gave them a chance to share their stories, which was very, very impactful and emotional. But we are expecting some assistance through AARP that will come our way that we can provide assistance, direct assistance to older adults that may have a specific need for something that they can't access right now. For instance, we've had older adults as a result of the tornadoes and losing their homes. They've lost eyeglasses, they've lost hearing aids, they've lost dentures, they have lost walkers, things of that nature that we think these dollars will be very accessible and flexible for us to help them with that need and meet them where they are. So we are working closely with AARP and Congressman Comer's office to follow back up with the individuals that we met with on Tuesday. And again, definitely appreciate the on-site visit. It's a lot different when you are meeting with them in person and they're sharing their stories and what they went through. And one of the ladies told me that she just really hoped that somehow some photos, she doesn't have anything left, that some photos from her home would maybe blow up on someone's yard and make their way back to her. And so when you're hearing those stories, it just really brings perspective to just basic daily needs that we want to be able to help those older adults with. And so we're going to be continuing to work with those individuals as those donations and funds come through to provide to them. Also, we have started to develop a resource directory here at the PeADD internally. We started that, I think, the Monday after the tornado. It's on our website. It's available. We update it weekly as we are made aware of resources, both locally, state, and federal, so that is available for individuals who may be looking for assistance. But if you have questions, feel free to let us know. We can answer those for you. And then the last thing I want to mention is a informational flyer in your packet about our long-term care ombudsman program. We are getting ready to ramp up our volunteer efforts. We need volunteers to come alongside us and go into our long-term care facilities to make visits with the residents. And so if you're interested in that or have questions, you can see us as well. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jill. Next on the agenda is our Community and Economic Development Report. Ms. Amy Froh.
Good afternoon, you all. I've got a couple of items I want to bring to your attention. If you would refer to your board packet, either physically in front of you or for those of you online, I think you have a link to the online application packet. In there, you'll find a loan review data sheet. Our loan committee met back on December the 15th to review an application that was presented to us from the Bard Distillery up in Muhlenberg County. The Bard Distillery was established by Tom and Kim Bard in 2017. They're located in what was the former Graham School there in Muhlenberg County. The proposed project that they have brought to us will move their production from the old gym facility into another part of the building, freeing up the gym for event type activity. Part of the project also includes HVAC to the gymnasium. We have been requested to participate with First Kentucky Bank in Muhlenberg County for financing of the project. First Kentucky has committed $280,000 to the project, subject to our approval of an application of $203,000 for a total of a $483,000 project. The project is anticipated to create 10 full-time jobs, 3 part-time jobs, and then retain 2 full-time and 1 part-time employees there at that location. As far as collateral on this project, we've proposed a first lien on the furniture, fixtures, and equipment for that facility, as well as a second mortgage on the real estate and personal guarantees from the 2 owners there. The loan committee did recommend to approve this loan at 4% for 10 years for those improvements. And with that, Mr. Chairman, we would like to move for that loan approval. Farmers. Yes, it is. Excuse me. It's Farmers Bank in Muhlenberg County. The loan officer that we're working with came from First Kentucky. So
Okay.
my page wasn't updated. I apologize for that.
Okay, no problem. Just wanted to make sure everyone was clear. All right, having heard the terms and the conditions of the loan, do I have a motion to approve the loan as presented? Motion by Todd, Judge Manfield, second by Judge Alexander. Any questions or comments? Okay, if anyone is opposed to this loan, please let it be known. Hearing no opposition, the loan is approved.
Just a couple of other items. You'll see a summary in there of our COVID loans. To date, we have made 30 loans through that program, totaling over just over $696,000 in those funds that have been funneled into our businesses to help them continue operation and recover due to the pandemic. If you all will remember, we received only $690,000 under that grant from the Economic Development Administration. So we are able to continue to make loans as those businesses repay those funds, and we'll continue to make those as they're repaid. And kudos to Chris Sutton for the success of that program. You've also got a couple of intergovernmental review reports for December and January in your packet. We've had 3 projects submitted in the last couple of months for review, and those projects have been sent out to those respective board members in those communities for their comment. I do want to draw your attention to the newsletter. There's some funding opportunity announcements in there. The Land and Water Conservation Fund, which is our recreational opportunities for our playgrounds and parks and things of that nature in your communities. The Recreational Trails Program, which is an opportunity for both motorized and non-motorized trails. And then the Recycling and Household Hazardous Waste. All of those grant periods are currently open and accepting applications. If you're interested in any of those programs, please contact myself, Angie, or Jared, and we'll get you started on that. Then lastly, I wanted to introduce our newest employee, Miss Angela Herndon. will be joining us today. It's her first day. She's a few hours in at this point. She's joining us as our regional planner to the Community and Economic Development Department. She comes to us from Community and Development Services with the City of Hopkinsville with 20 years experience of planning and community development activities. So we're glad to have her. Welcome, if you all will join me in welcoming Angela. That is all for my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome, Miss Angela. Appreciate you being with us. Okay, next item is our workforce development update, and Miss Sheila Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have 2 or 3 things on our agenda today, and one is to tell you that we do have an executive committee meeting, a virtual meeting on Wednesday at 10:30. And in that meeting, we'll be talking about one of the latest grants that's related to the disaster. We're calling this grant Project Twister, and it will serve those areas that were impacted, the 9 counties, the disaster declaration. We'll be talking about budget and activities there. We might give you just a short update. When the tornadoes hit, the Monday after that, we were on a call with the Department of Labor. In fact, they actually called me at home to make sure everybody was okay, because they personally had met or knew a lot of people in the area. And we had a call later that day with the state and the Department of Labor. And then on Wednesday, we were to have all of our information back to them so we could get a tentative approval on a grant. And in the meantime, we were working on places to locate, to put together what we were terming a resource center site. Because what we were finding is that people didn't have things that they needed, and that this would be a bank of computers along with staff that could help someone get documents that they might need, sign up for unemployment insurance if they had lost their place of work, and all the other various state programs and federal programs that might be available to them. That was not existing in any of those communities that were hard hit. And we were welcomed in areas like the high school at Dawson Springs, where it was a major distribution site. And we had staff there for that duration for the next 3 weeks or so in that area. In Mayfield, we also went into the high school there. We are since that time this week moving into a new area that several of the state offices are in a strip mall area there. And that will be our location probably for the next few months. We're hoping that we will have an opportunity to explain more to those of you all that are city officials and county officials, because we do have an opportunity under this grant to take individuals who have lost their job or had their job impacted to some type of job loss, and bring those individuals into a work experience activity, much like we did, if you all remember the activities we did under Project ICE. And then we had the windstorm, I think from Ike before that. And we can bring people in and they can help with humanitarian efforts. It can be something as simple as removing brush. It can be something that might help one of your offices, answer the phone, make copies of FEMA papers, try to keep up with the request from the public. And you'll be getting a call from our direct service provider with the Purchase Area Development District in those 9 counties to see if first our cities or counties need placements of individuals. If you hear of individuals that say they need a job, then we need to have that name so we can follow up with them. We're trying to follow up through the individuals that might come in and seek unemployment assistance. And then we are looking at ways to take our dislocated worker money and see if there's other members in the family that may have had a job or maybe a spouse that could be impacted with our dislocated worker dollars rather than the grant dollars. And that would be on a person by person basis if we could assist there. And then we do have the opportunity to take someone that may have lost a job. It may be that was a lower wage job and they think this is an opportunity while that business is not available for them to work in, to go and look at training for a higher paying job. We do have that opportunity under the grant. So you'll hear more about Project Twister and the opportunities there to have individuals assist with cleanup or with some of your sites. We need a job description for that site. They're paid at the prevailing wage for other positions that are similar to it. There is about a year limitation on their work, and the grant is good for 2 years. The grant was announced at $8 million, but we do actually have up to $25 million across the state available if those needs are there. We have to spend the first part across the state in order to get any additional dollars that would be coming out. I think that we're continuing to see more interest in what we're doing. We have a team coming down from the state that includes the deputy commissioner, the commissioner of workforce investment, as well as the deputy secretary for education and workforce development in the labor cabinet. And they will be down on Tuesday and Wednesday of this week. And we appreciate everyone's help in getting us into sites and giving our staff availability. And we hope to continue to offer that assistance to individuals that were impacted. Are there any questions that you might have right now? You'll hear more about this. You'll get a letter. You'll get more information, but we wanted to start that process today while you were online or either here in person to hear that. Any questions? Give us a call. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Sheila. Appreciate that. Okay, we'll move on now to new business. And first on our agenda is our audit report. Miss Jamie Peterson with Calhoun and Company. I'll ask her to come forward and review that with everyone.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Everybody should have some information at your place. The first thing is our communication letter to the board. It basically lays out the responsibilities of the auditor and what we do every year. So it talks about the independence and it shows the non-audit services that we may provide on an annual basis. We assist in preparing some of the financial statements, the schedule of federal awards, and the related notes. There are some proposed journal entries every year. A copy of those journal entries is actually on the last page of the letter. And most of those are related to the pension and the OPEB adjustments that are required by governmental accounting standards. And on that back page, the journal entry for in-kind was actually provided to us by Alicia. And also in there, we talk about significant policies and procedures that are actually listed in the audit report, as well as there being no issues with management during our field work. The audit report itself contains 3 separate letters. The letter in the front that starts on page 5 is what we always like to present. It's a clean or unmodified, unqualified opinion, which means basically that in our opinion, everything is presented fairly in all material respects. The two reports in the back of the audit that start on page 68, those are related to the compliance requirements and the internal controls over compliance. Every year we have to test federal grants and we have to determine which grants are major programs. For FY21, the 3 programs that we tested was the Workforce National Emergency Grant, the Workforce Cluster, which includes adult, youth, and dislocated worker, as well as the RLF or the Economic Development Cluster. With all of the procedures that we performed on all 3 of those grants, there were no findings or question costs to report. You will also have in your packet the executive summary. And basically, this is just an overview of all of the financial statements in the audit report. On the first page, you will see that the revenue generated for FY21 was $15,706,612. This is an increase from FY20 of over 2.8 million. And I would like to, a lot of that is related to the CARES dollars, which was necessary over the last year and a half to provide the services for the individuals that needed it throughout the pandemic. Of the revenues, 51% or a little over 8 million were related to federal grants. 28% or 4.3 million was related to state grants, and the remaining 21% was other revenue. At the bottom of the first page, it kind of gives a breakdown by program. 62% of the revenue was related to aging grants, which equated to about 9.4 million. A little over 4.3 million was related to the workforce grants, which made up 29%. And the rest of the revenue, around 9%, was made up of individual programs that made up less than 2% of the revenue individually. On the second page, you will see the expense breakdown. Total expenditures for FY21 was $15,138,231. This is an increase over last year of a little over 2.5 million. 72% or, well, a little over $10.8 million was related to contracted services, which are direct services to clients, the payments that go to the subrecipients that provide the services. 20% was related to salaries and employee benefits, and the remaining was due to various other expenses for in-kind or depreciation or other minor expenses. At the bottom of that page, you will see that the change in net position from FY20 was an increase of $567,758. The PeADD had an increase in net position of $563,872, and Pennyrile Housing had an increase of $3,886. You'll see the breakdown of the total net position. You see the net investment in capital assets. That is all of the fixed assets and capital expenditures net of any related debt. And then you have 3 areas that are restricted funds. You have your RLF dollars, which is your regular revolving loan funds. You've got something new this year for FY21, which is the CARES dollars for the revolving loan funds that Amy touched on earlier. And then you've got your IRP funds. And then the rest of it is unrestricted, which if you'll notice is negative. However, if you turn over to page 3, you'll see why it's negative. The negative net position is due to the required inclusion of the retirement and OPEB or other post-employment benefit liability and the related deferred inflows and outflows. Everything below the 0 line is what is made up of the pension and OPEB amounts, which equate to $5,835,718 for FY21. This is a required book entry for every year. That amount actually increased about $446,000 from last year. So if you'll notice anything above the 0 line is what your net position would be if you did not have to record your pension and OPEB amounts. And then on the fourth page, it just gives a breakdown of the liability that is on the financial statements that is strictly related to the retirement and the pension and the OPEB amounts. The amounts, if you can, I mean, you can tell it's almost 7 million that you had to book this year just related to that liability. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. And we really appreciate the work that Calhoun and Company does on behalf of conducting our audits on an annual basis, and appreciate the fact that our PeADD staff continues to excel from a financial standpoint, and obviously presenting this board with clean audits, which is also very helpful. That being said, and there's no questions for Jamie, I would entertain a motion that the audit report be approved as presented. Motion by Mayor Green. Do I have a second? Second by Ms. Chrissy Carter. Any questions or comments? Okay, hearing none. If anyone is opposed to the approval of this report, let it be known at this time. All right, hearing no opposition, the report is approved as presented. We have no ethics report to present to the board this month. So we'll move right on then to our fiscal year 22 budget amendments and Ms. Chrissy Carter.
The executive committee met this morning, January the 10th, to review the revised budget in detail. The revenues were adjusted to reflect actual allocations received, as some allocations were based on projections at the beginning of the fiscal year. We have also received additional funding from the American Rescue Plan Act and the National Dislocated Worker Grant Funds. With these adjustments, we have an overall budget increase of approximately $1,645, with approximately $607,299 reflected in the service budget and a $393,346 increase in the operating budget. Expenditures were adjusted to reflect a 3% increase in salaries for staff, along with merit adjustments. With the show, we show an overall reduction in personnel, as we have some positions that were budgeted but are currently vacant due to retirement or terminations. Operating expenses were increased by $272,500 to account for additional grant-related expenses from the American Rescue Plan Act, disaster relief, and National Dislocated Worker Grants. There is an overall increase in expenditures in the amount of $169,919. If there are any questions, we'll be glad to address those at this time.
Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve the budget amendments as presented. Motion by Scott Marshall. Do I have a second? All right, second by Mayor Yance. Any questions, comments? Again, hearing none. If opposed to the budget amendments as presented, please speak now. Hearing no opposition, the budget amendments will be approved as presented. All right, next up is our director's report. Jason.
I know folks are probably looking at the agenda and thinking we've got another hour to go with the number of items that are under my report, but I promise we'll work our way through these fairly quickly. I want to say thank you to Jamie and your staff. They are always great to work for or work with, always easy to get along with. So thank you for your time, Jamie. I want to echo what the chairman said about our staff. I'm extremely proud of our staff. And as I told the executive committee earlier, you know, we handle a lot of important programs and initiatives here. And the worst thing that can happen is if you get an unclean audit report, and to have that clean audit report really does a lot for our stability and being able to continue receiving those federal and state funds. So thank you to all of our staff. Thank you, and especially our financial staff, for all the work that they do. to make sure that we stay in line. I also just wanted to point out one thing on our expense breakdown of what Jamie shared. And one thing that we always try to keep a close eye on is our expenses and how much of our expenses go to our administrative cost versus how much of our funds actually go out to our services. And you can see on the breakdown that she shows, it's actually on the second page of that executive summary that she supplied. You know, the majority of our funds do go out to our services. So again, that's something that we keep a close eye on, as we always want to make sure that most of our funds go out to our services. So again, just thank you to our staff. And if you all don't mind, just give them a round of applause. A lot of those are on the Zoom call right now. I also wanted to thank our executive committee members for showing up just a little bit earlier today to go over some of those things in detail. If you could pull my slides up there, I have a number of things to go over with you as you see on the agenda, but we'll quickly go through those. Last week, I emailed all of the board members a copy of our recently amended Title VI plan. You will also find a copy of that Title VI plan in your packet, also on the online packet. This is our plan and our continuing ongoing efforts to meet and exceed compliance with Title VI and the Civil Rights Act of 1964. With this implementation, of course, PeADD seeks to provide continued transparency and clarity and technical guidance of all of our internal and external constituents regarding our Title VI program. And Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions, but if there are none, the board will need to formally approve this plan as submitted. And as I relayed in the email that I sent out, I know the dates do look, this is for last year. However, this is how they ask us to do that on an annual basis. So unless there are any questions, Mr. Chairman, we'll need to approve that.
Okay. Hearing no questions, do I have a motion to approve the Title VI plan as presented to the board? All right. Motion by Ms. Chrissy Carter. Do I have a second?
Second, Judge Gruber.
Okay. Thank you, Judge. If there is any opposition to the approval of this plan, let it be known at this time. Hearing no opposition, the plan is approved as presented. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's time for the board to reappoint or appoint members to our Pennyrile Development and Governmental Center Board. That's PeADD. That's what we refer to that as. If you recall, this is the group that owns and oversees our office building here at 300 Hammond Drive. We currently have 3 members whose terms are expiring at the end, or that expired at the end of 2021. Those individuals are David Shore from Trigg County, Rich Levy from Christian County, and then John Walton from Todd County. Now, I have spoken with all 3 of these individuals, and they have graciously agreed to serve another term on PDNGC. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I would recommend that David, Rich, and John be appointed for another 3-year term.
Okay. Do I have a motion to reappoint those gentlemen listed? Motion by Judge Mansfield. Do I have a second? Second by Scott Marshall. All right. Anyone opposed to that motion, please let it be known now. Hearing no opposition, the motion will carry to reappoint those 3 individuals. Thank you.
Next, Mr. Chairman, in your packet, you'll find 3 items related to our conflict of interest and code of ethics policy. That's our code of ethics policy that was adopted in 2017, the conflict of interest acknowledgement form, and then the ombudsman conflict of interest form. And each year we are required to have all of our board members review and acknowledge the various forms, and we will need that each of you all review those, sign and return both acknowledgement forms, our conflict of interest form and the ombudsman conflict form. And then in addition to having those as part of your all's packet today, and for those of you all that are online, Cheri will be emailing that out to all of our board members for completion. But if you could get those signed today, those that are here, for those of you that are online, if you could get those back to us ASAP, at least by the end of this month. All right, next slide. I did want to point out several brochures related to legislative priorities, starting with those of the Pennyrile ad, and those are in your packet as well. And I won't touch on everything, but you will find information on the recent ranking of infrastructure projects that has taken place over the last couple of months, along with general information about contacts here at PeADD, who to call directory, legislative calendar, General Assembly members, and so forth. Of course, as you would expect, you will find the words increased transportation funding, broadband funding, aging workforce initiatives scattered throughout all of those legislative priorities. I would ask that you take a moment when you have time to read through those and be willing to share with our state legislature when you have time. In addition to the PeADD brochure that's in there, we've also included the KLC brochure as well as KCO. Next slide, please. A couple of events that are coming up that I want to draw your attention to. That's the legislative breakfast on February the 10th at the Capitol Annex Cafeteria there in Frankfort. We will provide accommodations to our board for the night of February the 9th. And as always, a good opportunity to meet with our legislators. It's also the same day as West Kentucky Thank You Night. West Kentucky Thank You Night will be later that evening there in Frankfort. So there'll be a lot going on February the 10th. If you need a room for February the 9th, let Cheri know so we can go. We have a room block reserved at the Hampton as well as the Capitol Plaza downtown. So let Cheri know if you need a room. Next slide. I also wanted to draw your attention, and we talked about this at our last meeting, is the NATO Washington Policy Conference. That's going to be March the 13th through Wednesday, March the 16th. As always, in addition to conference activities, our group will spend a considerable amount of time on the Hill meeting with our congressional delegation. And I am happy to report, based on the calendars that I have seen this past weekend, that Congress will be in session during that time. I know that the last couple of times that this conference took place, that Congress was not in session, but this time, if everything holds true with the calendar, they will be in session. So again, another thing, if you're interested in attending that, please let Cheri know. That way we can go ahead and start reviewing possible travel arrangements as soon as possible. And then finally, Mr. Chairman, next slide, please. I want to recognize one of our staff members who's celebrating 20 years of service this month, Pennyrile ad. I'm sure that most of you all don't know her. She doesn't do a whole lot around here. But it is actually quite the opposite. And just a little history. Amy was hired back in 2002. She's been an administrative assistant. She's held positions as highway safety coordinator, community development specialist, director of community development, and now serves as the associate director for community and economic development. So I know Amy's fingerprints are on projects in every community across our region. So we're very fortunate and lucky to have Amy. So congratulations, Amy, and thank you. Mr. Chairman, I believe that's all I have, unless anybody has any questions.
All right, 20 years, Amy. Golly, you must have had to get your parents' permission, to start work. That's what I was going to say. All right, no, thank you for your years of service, and you do a lot for all of us. Yes. Okay. All right. Did everyone hear that regarding the audit? Okay. Real quick, Mayor Green asked if today's meeting was going to be as brief as our November meeting. And I told him I didn't think so, given the agenda and the fact that we had several visitors. but we didn't do too bad. So if you average the two out, we're probably right on schedule. I want to thank everyone for your patience and your attendance, both of those of you online and in person. And if no one has any other business to come before the board, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor Cotton, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Mayor. Do I have a second? Okay. All right. Second by Scott Marshall. All in favor, signify by saying or leaving the meeting. And yeah, thank you.